students. So we are your advisors for the first year at Rensselaer, and then you'll move on to faculty advising for your second through fourth years. So what we really do is help you kind of get started here. Navigating Rensselaer, answering questions that you might have, and then when it comes to be more specific, major specific and curriculum specific, you'll go on to your faculty advisors who are more well-versed within that specific major and that specific department. So we work very closely with faculty as well, and there will be several different opportunities for you to actually get to meet faculty throughout your time. So you've taken a look at your registration guides at this point. Definitely make sure to complete those by the end of next week if you have not already. We're doing this video chat, and then there will be student orientation as well. So that's kind of what's on deck at this point. So what I'll be doing today is going over curriculum planning for fall. Something that students often ask me questions about is AP and other transfer credits. So we'll get more into the template and things like that in a bit here, but basically students come in at different points with their academic trajectory, right? So some students have AP classes, perhaps students don't have AP or don't have transfer credits. So what we're able to do is really tailor your schedule to ensure that you are moving forward with the classes that you've already taken, that you're coming in with, that you're comfortable for your first semester here. One question that I've been getting often, I'd say one of the top questions I'm getting by email at this point, is whether or not students should apply their AP credits. I know that the AP scores are a bit delayed from College Board as well, so that is probably another reason we're getting that question. So in order to get credit at Rensselaer, you have to have a 5 to bring in transfer credits. So that's a great score. My recommendation definitely is to go on to that next course. Typically, students do very well when that is the case, right? So if they get credit for Calculus 1, moving to Calculus 2, 5 or so years worth of research demonstrates that moving on to that next course was positive for them. And another thing to consider too is we don't want you to be, repeating content. We especially don't want you to get bored either. So if you do have specific things, again, we can do a one-on-one meeting to discuss, but I'd say the general rule of thumb is that students do move on to that next course. And when you're considering which classes to take and which classes to register for, my recommendation is to make an educated guess as to the grades that you have received, and then we can always change things if needed to. So registration opens up July 13th, it goes to July 22nd. Even so, after that time, registration will open back up for the first couple weeks of classes. There's actually a 2-week period during which you're able to make changes to your schedule, which is our add deadline. And then we have a drop deadline as well if you were to drop courses. So we're going to talk about your fall schedule, and then what I'm going to do is bring up our template so we can kind of use that as a guide to get into more specifics about the biomedical engineering curriculum. Another question I've been getting is how many credits should I be taking the first semester? So at Rensselaer, our classes are typically 4 credits. The majority of our classes are 4. You'll get a couple of 3-credit courses, and then also there are 1-credit courses mixed within as well. So as a biomedical engineer, my recommendation to you is that you take between 16 and 17 credits for your first semester. So that is typically 4 4-credit courses and then 1 1-credit course. So our recommendation is that you take a math course. As biomeds, you take Calculus 1, 2, differential equations, and multivariable calculus. And then you also take Chemistry 1, and then Introduction to Cell and Molecular Biology as well. So you've got math courses. You also will take Physics 1 and Physics 2, and then later you'll get into more specific both engineering and biomedical engineering courses. You will also take what's called a HOS course, which is an interdisciplinary humanities, arts, or social sciences course. So you'll take 5 total humanities, arts, and social sciences courses as you are during your time here. And then during the first year, we would like you to take what's called an IHSS course, or interdisciplinary humanities, arts, and social sciences course. A communication intensive course is also asked for that you do this during your first year as well. So a lot of our IHSS courses are communication intensive. It's kind of 2 things at once, so you're not really having to, think too much into it. And we have different pathways as well. So that's something that the guides go through is the Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences pathways. A pathway is a 3-credit course sequence that kind of goes in depth into a specific area. It actually helps students move toward minors if that's something that they're interested in too, because a pathway is 3 courses and a minor is 4 courses. So 1 extra course gets you a minor. And that's more within the guides. And I can definitely help in terms of recommending, pathways or humanities, art, social science courses based upon your interests as well. As I mentioned, registration begins on July 13th. It'll go through July 22nd. So seats for classes are released gradually. So that's a question that students have been asking is, I'm looking to plan my schedule. I'm seeing that it lists 0 seats in a course. I need calculus. Am I not going to be able to take calculus? And the answer to that is no. We will get you into the courses that you need regardless. So when it comes closer to the registration time, the seats will be released, and then everyone will have a time ticket, which is your registration date and time, and then you'll be able to add courses then. So with that, the gradual release of courses seats and courses means that you're not going to be missing out whether you're July 13th or July 22nd. Our recommendation of this, though, is to make sure that you have a plan A, plan B, and plan C for your schedule in case courses fill up. And, for the courses that students take the freshman year, there are hundreds and hundreds of seats available. So there's, many different schedules that you can have as well, too. So rest assured, we will get you the classes that you need. This being said, definitely have a couple of options for a schedule in mind. And toward the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you how you actually create a mock schedule during a program called YACS, which goes on to our registration resources. So I'm going to go in reverse order here. I'm your academic advisor. I'm here to assist you with questions that you might have. Before, during, or after orientation as well. We'll be working together for this full year. We'll also have SIS, which is Student Information System. You might have noticed there's a lot of different acronyms here at RPI, but that's the main one for advising. SIS is actually the system that you will add courses through. And then lastly, we have a program, yet another acronym called YACS. So YACS is actually an RPI student created program to help students register for classes. And basically it helps you create different mock schedules. It's really a brilliant system, and we use it extensively within the School of Engineering Hub and working with our students. So we'll do questions at the end. But what I wanted to do briefly is kind of get into some of these resources that I had mentioned here. The first one being the registration guide. Bear with me as I use Smack for the first time today. Okay, good enough. So if you haven't already gone through this, this is the best possible resource that I can definitely recommend at this point. It has everything you need within here. We have different videos to guide you through things like choosing humanities courses and actually selecting courses themselves and going to register the day of. We have information about the classes that you should be taking your first semester as well. There's different videos and pictures and things like that. You've got your template right here. And then at the very bottom, we have videos that show you how to use YACS. We have the AP, IB, and Cambridge charts as well to talk about, what courses come in as what here at Rensselaer. And then we have different steps involved for actually registering for courses and how to register, things like that. And then here we are at video chat. So I definitely recommend that you go through this guide and you go through it thoroughly and, definitely take your time with it. Registration, we do these webinars earlier to give you this amount of time to be able to actually register for courses. That's why we wanted to have you do this, before you do anything else here. So I'm going to bring up this video quick. Let's see if this works. Without actually showing, I'm actually doing volume. I'm talking. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you is our system. Let's do a template next. Here's our Biomed template. So let's go into it. It's not. All right. So this is the biomedical engineering template, and it lists the courses that you should be taking during your first year. What I will also be doing is I will be sending out a JPEG version of this so that you're able to use it and actually navigate through and look at the courses that you'll be taking. So this might be very small on your screen, but let's see. If I get this any bigger. So the courses that you'll be taking your first semester typically are Chemistry 1, Introduction to Engineering Analysis, Engineering Graphics and CAD or Engineering Communications, Calculus 1, and then an IHSS course, which is Interdisciplinary Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. So Chemistry 1, fairly self-explanatory. Lab is built right into Chemistry 1 there. And then Introduction to Engineering Analysis, which is the next course, is kind of like the physics of engineering. So if you don't have previous physics experience, what I actually recommend is that you take Physics 1 before you take Introduction to Engineering Analysis. Next, you've got Engineering Graphics and CAD. So this gives you experience with CAD, computer-aided design, and basically you're able to choose between either engineering graphics and CAD, which is CAD the full semester. It's a 1-credit course, but you'll learn just CAD. And then you've got engineering communications, which is half CAD. And then the other half is word processing software. So I'd say students for Biomed are split 50-50 in terms of what they actually choose to take. Then you've got Calculus 1. As I mentioned, you take Calculus 1, Calculus 2, multivariable calculus, and then Introduction to Differential Equations as a biomed. So you'll take 4 different semesters worth of math. And then last, you've got that interdisciplinary or humanities, arts, and social sciences course. And then going into the spring, because sometimes students do come with advanced courses, the next thing that you will take is Introduction to Cell and Molecular Biology. We do recommend that you actually take this during the spring rather than the fall. Take Engineering Processes, which is a 1-credit course where you are within the machine shop, learning different tools and things like that. You have Calculus 2, you have Physics 1, and then you have a Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences course. So that's the brief overview of the courses that you'll take. So I looked at this briefly because what I want to show you is when you actually go to search and create a schedule within our program YACS, you're going to want to pay attention to these 4-letter, 4-number codes. So for instance, Chem 1 is CHEM 1100. So what we do now that we know the courses that we want to take is you'll use this program YACS in order to create a mock schedule. So for instance, we'll search in Chem 1100 and then click enter. What you can see here are all the different sections for Chemistry 1 that are available to you. So in building a schedule, what you can do is you can either select all of them by clicking this red button and then clicking schedule, or you can go through and actually select specific sections. So say, for instance, you are an athlete or you are doing ROTC, there are time limitations in terms of when you actually are able to take courses. So what we recommend to students is, going through and being able to select the different sections. So what you'll see here is this actually goes to build a schedule for us. So there's 4 different options. And then we gradually continue to add those classes in there. And if you do this and you kind of select all of them, like I did at first with that red bar up top, you'll get 1,000 different schedules, which is a lot to choose from. So what I recommend is, put the courses in there, and then you can kind of start to narrow down. For instance, if you know you're a morning person, you like to get things done in the morning, you can make sure that your schedule looks like that. If you really want to have lunch every day at the same time, which is totally fair, you can make your schedule so that you have that same time, that same gap in between. So this is a good way to be able to create multiple schedules, like I had mentioned, to ensure that, there are different sections that are available to you, that there are seats in the different sections, and just kind of having a general idea about the courses that you want to take. Another reason I bring us to YACS here is because this creates for us course registration numbers, aka CRN. So we saw that when I typed in Chem 1100, which is that code, it has these 5-digit codes. So that is actually what you use in order to register for courses. So if I go back here, when you go into SIS, and we have videos that show you how to do this, you're going to go to the register add drop, and you actually go through here and you're going to enter the different CRNs or course registration numbers for the different courses that you want to take. Then what this does is this actually registers you for those courses. So those will all be within your schedule, and say a course was to open up, or perhaps, accidentally you had something that conflicts in terms of classes, you'd also see that on this page here. This will show you the total number of credits that you'll take. So again, YACS is a great tool to be able to plan, but what we actually recommend is, write those course registration numbers down, but also a second way to search for courses is within our SIS system. Under student menu and then course search, you're able to actually search by course area or course name. So again, this is all within the guides, this kind of being a brief overview of the different things that we like to help students, get to know when they start here. So what I want to do, let me think if there's anything else I want to share on a general level. Go through the guides, multiple courses. Again, no such thing as a silly question. I'm here to help. And I'm also available like this for, one-on-one chats too, if you do want to kind of talk specifics about your schedule. And there's a bit of time. We do have a bit of time before you actually register for courses, which is really nice. So, go through the resources. Let me answer any questions that you have. AP credits should be coming out soon. If you have taken college credits elsewhere that did not count toward your high school degree and you want to bring them into RPI, I can help with that bit too. And I think that is it for all of my specific talking at this point. Really want to stress how very excited we are to have you at Rensselaer and have you here in Troy with us. For me to have you in biomedical engineering, a major that I love so much, and it's a great major. It's always growing too. I think it's a great sign is, a couple of years ago, there weren't as many students as there are now in biomedical engineering, but it's a growing field. It's a growing profession. It's super important, especially in these times right now. And yeah, I'm very excited to work with you all. And with that, I did see that we had a couple of questions.
You muted yourself again.
Thank you so much to whoever keeps telling me that I muted myself. I appreciate that. Maths are different. Okay, so let's take a look. So where would we be able to find this? So we will be posting a recording of this webinar session. So you can always access this later. And then in terms of anything else, we have emailed you the guides, and then also I'll send a separate JPEG as well. So you can actually use that to plan your schedule and things like that. Within some of the videos, what I've done is I have a little editing tool, and I'll, do a little blue dot for the things that you should be taking and things like that. So I definitely recommend that you go through and look at the template. And it really is a guide more than anything. I rarely 100% are students exactly on template for every semester they're here because of AP credits. Perhaps they transfer in other credits later. Maybe they'll take multivariable calculus before they take differential equations, or vice versa. So what's nice with Biomed as well is because it is a bigger major and it's a larger department, courses are offered fairly often. So it doesn't have to 100% be set in stone when you take specific classes. And I see the chat jumping off, so let's get started with this. All right. So great question here. Can you register for some courses initially and hold off on others and register at a later time? Or do you have to register for all at once because the AP scores from this year come after the start date for registration? And that is a great point. Probably #1 question in my inbox at this point, to be honest. So my recommendation for you is to make a guess as to an educated guess, your best guess as to whether you got credit for the AP. We can always change your schedule if things are one way or the other. So for instance, if we need to change things afterwards, registration again is open through the 22nd. We can also make changes afterwards. And then, those first 2 weeks of school, you're able to make changes too. So I would register for the courses, the next course, if you think you got a 5 on the exam. And if not, we can kind of discuss as well and have that be a one-on-one discussion, definitely. Another question we have here, is there a cap on credits allowed in one semester? So there is a literal answer to this, and then there's an advisory answer to this. So your first semester, I mentioned 16 to 17 credits for the first year, and we really do not want students to go above and beyond that. The reason being, we want you to be able to adjust to RPI, right? Adjust to courses, taking college courses here, and just so life at RPI too, right? So academics are very important, but that's just a piece of it, right? The full college experience. So 16 to 17 is really what I tell students to stick with for their first semester. And then, we can talk about going higher later, but honestly, I think 16 to 17 is plenty. That being said, the technical limit without having to get paperwork signed off on is 21 credits. 22 credit and 23 you have to get paperwork signed off on, and 23 and higher you actually have to pay more for the classes, which I would not say is ideal. Don't go to 23, but definitely for your first semester, let's keep it to 16 to 17. Okay, some great questions. And there's always questions I don't think of in these things. That's great. When do we know which textbooks we must buy? So that will go along with registration. When you actually register for courses within SIS, the Student Information System, you're going to be able to see a list of the courses and the textbooks that you should purchase. And also the syllabi, the different the syllabus for each course will list the textbooks as well. All right, do I know how classes are going to be set up for fall, in person, online, both? How many people per class? If in person, will there be labs? How will those work? So I will preface this and say that basically I'm learning about things as students are as well. So some of these questions I might not know the answer to just because of how ongoing everything is. That being said, as a first year student, you will be on campus and we're looking forward to having you. From what I understand, most classes, honestly, there's a couple of larger lecture hall courses. They're few and far between, but my understanding is that those will be broken down to be smaller so that social distancing can take place. And also, from what I understand as well, there is going to be, in class for you as first year students, but also I believe that courses will be available online too. How many people per class if in person? I think it's going to depend, but they're really making it super precautions to make sure that social distancing and everyone's health is taken into consideration. So I'd say the typical, I don't think it's going to go beyond 30. And also that's going to be at a social distance where everyone can be safe and healthy. Same with labs as well. So capacities are being thought through as well. Let's see, how do we add a minor? So another question I've been getting a lot lately. So a minor is 4 classes. Most minors are. Sometimes you actually have to take a prerequisite to get to a minor course. So it can either be 5, or if you're very bold and you want to be a computer science minor, it's actually 6 classes technically. So there's paperwork that you fill out to actually declare the minor. And I actually recommend that students don't fill that out until they're on their 2nd or 3rd of their 4 courses. The reason being that if anything is to change, so for instance, say, you fill out the paperwork, I want to be a psychology minor, and you want to take, these specific 4 courses. Well, perhaps you decide to take a different course for your fourth one, or perhaps you decide to, you know, totally change it up. You have to redo the paperwork, which is, it's fine. It's a couple different steps, but what I like to have students do is have it be as final as possible when they actually declare their minor. So, let's take a look here. Is it possible to add another major or a double major? So there are double majors and there are dual majors. Double majors, you get 2 different pieces of paper for the diploma, very important pieces of paper. And then a dual major, you actually get 1. Both of your majors are listed on 1. For the double major, you're actually required to basically complete the requirements for both. There really is no overlap except for humanities courses, and that's about it. So it's a lot of credits. Dual majors, there is a bit of overlap in terms of the credits that count toward both. This being said, biomedical engineering is somewhat of a challenging major to do a dual with. It really depends on the dual and the other major that you want to do it with, and we can always discuss this as well, but sometimes you'll see that students end up having challenges related to registration, or perhaps they'll have to take multiple 21 credit semesters. As your advisor, I want what's best for you, and I also want you to be able to do with your education what you want to do. So I will help you to make that happen. This being said, doing 1 major is definitely easier than doing 2, but we can discuss, specifics as well. So the actual process involved, again, paperwork, there's paperwork for everything. But it would be more of the creation of a personalized plan for you. This is what I'm going to be doing each semester that I'm here. And then you'll actually have to get clearance from both your biomed advisor and then the advisor for the other major too. So if you do have interest, let me know. I would recommend a minor over a dual if you're not sure that you want to be able to do or do both all at once, because you'll still get to dabble and get to learn within that specific area too. Let's see. A lot of really good questions. Keep them coming, guys. Where would we find communication HAAS class info? So communication intensive. So within the guides and on the HAAS website, there is an interdisciplinary HAAS pathways page, and you're able to see all the courses that are made up of the different pathways. And then there you can also see whether a course is a HAAS inquiry course or if it's communication intensive. It'll say CI. Another place to check is YACS will have that, because YACS has the description. So if within the description it states that it's communication intensive, you'll see it right there. And then the third way that you can take a look is actually within SIS, Student Information System. When you do that class search, you can see whether a course is communication intensive there too. All right. So we have another question. Can we find the Biomed registration guide online? And the answer to that is yes. So I had sent out an email. It was a longer email last week, and then the link to all the guides are within there. So if you click on the link and then click down to Biomed, you'll be able to see it there. If you didn't receive it for some reason, feel free to shoot me an email, and I can help you there too. And we have more questions coming. All right, we have a question about holds here too. Registration guide states that holds from the health center might prevent us from registering. If you do feel that you might be prevented from registering for whatever reason, let me know. We can see about contacting the health center and see what else you need to complete in order to be able to register. Even if I don't have the answers myself, I will get you to someone who does. So that's one of those questions, because I can't necessarily clear holds, but I can get you to the person who can help there. Have registration time tickets already been released? So I believe the answer to that is no, and it will be the week of July 6th. So after the holiday, you'll get that information. You can see that right within SIS, which is the Student Information System. Another question, can one class count toward a major, minor, and pathway? We're thinking like an engineer. The answer to that is yes. So a course can't count toward both your major and your minor, but it can count toward your curriculum, so to speak. So the way that students get minors is they use either their humanities courses or typically their free electives to be able to get the minor and take those 4 classes that you need to be able to get that minor. And pathways are kind of built to help you be able to attain a minor too. So yes, there are courses that will go back and forth. Let's see here. What do you do with transferable credit that isn't directly related to the recommended first semester of courses? So my recommendation is that you bring in everything that you've got. We will find ways to apply it. Courses that are not within a pathway or not within your major can also count toward these free electives, right? So you take 12 credits worth of free electives. Typically students do, you know, 4 credit courses. Sometimes if you transfer in courses from most other colleges, to be honest, they're 3 credits, so you would do 4 of those. So bring it in and we'll have it count toward your free elective. I like seeing students get credit for the hard work that they put through before they got here. So bring it all in, we'll figure out where it fits best. Let's see here. When should I reach the campus? So I think that information will be released by first year experience in terms of when everything starts. The next is, if I want to take a class online over the summer, what do I recommend transferring and bringing in? So we have what's called an undergraduate transfer credit guide. It's kind of a mouthful. And basically that lists all the different courses that students have ever brought in from any class or any class from any school. And my recommendation is you take a look at that guide and see what's available. But if you are going to take something over the summer, you know, first see if something is available at your local community college or state university, wherever you're taking courses. A lot of courses are online, obviously, right now this summer. So that does open up opportunities for students to be able to take courses. So it really depends on where you're at and what you're coming in with. Courses like Introduction to Engineering Analysis are really RPI specific. Same with Engineering Communications, would take those here. But a lot of the maths and sciences you could bring in, and then also thinking about those humanities courses and the free electives too. So those might be a good option as well, really depending on where you're at. All right. Once we register for our classes, will we receive an official copy of our schedule? Yes. So that will actually be within the Student Information System site, and you'll be able to see that information kind of right off the bat. And you'll be able to see it's like a grid basically. So you'll kind of get to see how your classes are blocked out throughout the day, which is a nice visual representation of your time. If we are unsure if we would like to do pre-med, biomedical engineering, or just biomed, do you recommend starting off in pre-med or not pre-med, or does it not make a difference? That's a great question. And if you are considering and you aren't so bored of my voice and hearing from me today, definitely recommend that you come tomorrow morning as well, because we'll get more into the pre-med specific stuff. Really the only course that differs during the first year for pre-med, or the first semester rather for pre-med, is whereas you take a humanities course for a biomed student, pre-med, there's a number of different requirements that students have, including additional courses in the sciences, which is Bio 1 and 2, Bio 1, and then Chem 1 and Chem 2. You'll just take Chem 1. So if you're undecided if you'd like to be a pre-med or not, what you can do is think it over the summer, you know, talk to me. Pre-meds actually have a faculty specific advisor right off the bat, whereas you all start with me and move on to biomedical engineering. I more serve as like a general kind of questions for them, and pre-meds go to their faculty advisor for questions. So if you're considering, I would register for biology instead of a Haas, which is Bio 1010 plus Bio 1015, which is biolab. And then if you still haven't made your decision by the time that school starts, the worst case scenario is that bio will actually still count toward your three electives. So everything counts towards something, right? And it's better to be able to figure that out right now during your first semester than far down the road. Okay, so let's see. We have another pre-med question here. For those who have taken an interest in the pre-med track for BME but are still unsure whether to proceed or the general BME track, we still have time to decide which path we'd like to head on after course registration. So since pre-med students take both BME courses and prepare for medical school, would it be okay picking fall courses for the pre-med track? So kind of going along those lines as well. Not the worst idea. If you wanted to pick those pre-med courses and if you're still deciding, we can always change it up. We can always walk it back if you need, but we want to get you the courses that you need regardless. And again, that bio course would also count toward your free electives, and whereas biomeds take cell and molecular biology and they don't actually take bio 1+ lab, a little bio extra experience isn't the worst thing for a biomed. The next question we have here was the registration guide only for information and guidance, or were we supposed to submit anything? So the answer to that is just for guidance to get you kind of rolling into registration and preparing for that. Nothing to submit. I guess on your end, I would just create a couple of schedules and get those course registration numbers, those CRNs ready for your registration day, but nothing formal to submit. Unless you have questions, you can submit those to me. A lot of really good questions today. Right. Ooh, good question here. When will you need our final transcripts? I would get those when you have them into the registrar's office and get them processed. So short answer is when you have them. I've also had students who have taken classes at community colleges or, other enrollment, and then they decide after classes start, hey, I think I want to transfer that in. I want to be able to do this. You can always transfer your stuff in then as well. But I would say sooner rather than later would be as soon as possible, I would say. But no sweat, you're still going to be able to register for the courses that you need. And I will say again, we will get you what you need. All right, keep the questions coming if you guys have any more. I know this is also a lot of information all at once, and you're not very far removed, if you are removed, from your high school education and such. So with that in mind, again, I'm here to help and I'm here as a guide. Are the CRNs specific to certain times of classes or just for the class in general? Is there a way to register for a specific schedule from YACS or SIS? So the CRN, each individual class section will have a CRN. So, maybe there's several calculus classes that take place mainly from 10 to 11:50 on Monday, Thursday. Say there's 4 or 5 sections. Each of those 4 or 5 sections will have their own individual CRN, which makes it easier to differentiate as well. And then when you actually create those schedules in YACS, you're going to want to do so by considering the dates and times that you want to take courses. I have some more questions coming. Bear with me as I navigate this computer. All right. Do you have to send transcripts directly to the school, or can you send an official transcript through email? So official transcripts cannot be. Send everything to the registrar's office is the answer to that. Typically, unofficial can go through an email from a student, but official has to come directly from one institution to the other without you as the middle person. So be that a sealed record or else another way. Let's see. Next question. How would you go about switching your major if you wanted to switch to chemical engineering? Well, I advise chemies as well, so you can see this all through me. And it's a pretty seamless process both before and after orientation. before orientation, if you are interested in changing your major, what you can do is within your admissions account, you can actually change your major within there. After orientation, there's a paper version of a change of major form, and you would just submit that to me and switch it over, and also ensure that you're taking the proper classes for whichever major you want to switch into. Another thing to consider too is for first year engineers, really there's a specific core engineering curriculum, right? So there really is no way to go wrong during your first year and kind of considering the classes you want to take, because as I mentioned earlier, everything counts for something. But we will adjust your schedule if needed to fit the courses you need. Another question, if you are an athlete, how do you know what your time restrictions are? And that's a great question. So ROTC and athlete students have restrictions in terms of timing because of things like practices and games. And typically athletes are not able to have courses past 4 p.m. for that reason. And then ROTC, I believe they work out earlier in the morning, so it depends upon that as well. I would check with your coaches in terms of the specifics, but we don't want you taking courses typically after 4 p.m. if you're within those. All right, let's take a look. How should we be going about getting answers to more personal and specific questions? The answer to that is contact me directly. Let me see. I'll bring up my slide at the very end, but the easiest way to get to me is through email, and then you and I can create a date and time to talk like this, or talk on the phone, or email, whatever you prefer. Typically, meetings are about 20 minutes or so, and we'll go through your information then. And again, I'll put my email up at the very end for you to write. I don't want it to get lost in the chat here. Let's see. Ooh, that's really good questions. When we register for a class with a specific CRN, are we also registering for a specific professor connected to that CRN, or a professor is determined after registration? So professors are typically actually determined before you register, because professors teach specific sections and specific times. Let's see what we can do here. I might have lost my tab, but when you go, aha, here we go. Okay, let's go. All right. So with each different section of the courses that you take, you'll see you've got the CRN, and then you've got the professors that are associated. So let's see here. Professor Brown, for instance, is the instructor for Math 1010 for section 1. And then there's typically either labs or recitations also associated with the different sections here too. And I realize you probably did not see my screen for that, but there's professors that are tied into each course and each CRN. How do we know if our PI received our transcripts is the next question. So with that, once you can get into your SIS account, you can actually view your transcript within there and be able to see if it's been received. Transcripts are sent through the registrar's office, registrar@rpi.edu, or for you all, there is a specific email. It's newstudentreg@rpi.edu. And I recommend looking into it that way. I can also look too if you need. As it gets to be closer toward registration orientation, it's a bit harder for me to look at every single student's record. But if you go into SIS, even how about right before you register, for instance, you can go in and view your transcript, and then from there, if you don't see it in there, registrar@rpi is typically the way that you do that. And if you're bringing in AP courses, you do that through College Board. Next question, if you are an athlete, are you still required to do arch? So in terms of the arch, there are different, I guess, requirements and things like that based upon the sport that you play and season as well, because some students are in season the full year, so they're not able to take an away semester. So if you have specific questions on that, go ahead and email me and I'll take a look in. Next question here. After this webinar, by when should we contact you to schedule a one-on-one appointment? Also, when are we required to complete our School of Engineering advising contract? So you're not required to meet with me one-on-one if you really don't want to, but I do welcome that you do. you can meet me whenever. Actually, there's a couple students on this call that I've already met with, which is great. Don't feel like you're behind the ball at all if we haven't met, or even if you want to meet. But you and I will meet minimally once a semester, because I actually will clear your registration for you to be able to take, you know, I'll have to clear your registration in the fall for you to be able to register for spring courses and so on. I'd say typically I meet with students more than just once a semester. Occasionally there's students who just want to meet with me, that infrequently, but there are students that I meet with far more often. So the answer to that, long and short, is whenever you would like to contact me to create an appointment here all summer. And then the advising contract, let me get back to you on that. I believe we'll be sending it out during orientation, or it might actually be a part of our first initial, week or two of courses. So the answer to that is not yet, and I will get back to you. All right. If you have any other questions, keep them coming. You got a lot of really, really good questions. And something I find is that if one person has a question, typically other people do too. And, they get what they need answered. Ooh, great question here. When's the best time to study abroad, and where can you study abroad? So, what's nice with Biomed, there are a number of different schools that you're really able to take classes at and things like that. In terms of when the best time is, there is no one straight answer. It is when it fits best within your academic trajectory. I would say typically anywhere between the end of your sophomore spring through your junior year, be it for your Arch Away semester or a separate semester of courses, is when you can study abroad. I studied abroad myself in college. I absolutely loved it. And actually, a lot of us in the hub did the same. I think it's a great opportunity, and I am here to support you if that's what you'd like to do. And I study abroad is so very many different things, but when you boil it down, it's, you're taking classes at one institution and you're transferring them over to RPI. That being said, we have different agreements and partnerships with different colleges abroad that you can be able to take classes there, and you're a student there, you transfer them in here. So if you have an idea as to where you'd like to study abroad, we have all these affiliated partnerships. I would kind of choose an area, for instance, say you want to go to Europe and you want to walk a backsea that way. Say you want to go to Singapore, we have a school there that we partner with very closely that I've actually had Biomed study abroad at too. So it depends upon where you want to go and the classes you want to take. And we help, as well as faculty, work with students to help make that happen. Does studying abroad coincide with your major? Great question. So, yes. So truthfully, so when it comes to studying abroad, again, it's a transfer of credits from one place to another, and it's so very much more. But we actually require that students work with us as well as the study abroad office to ensure that the courses that they take abroad will also transfer back to RPI. We don't want you taking classes and having them not transfer. That's just not an effective use of time, and that's not something we want to happen. So typically students, when they study abroad, will take potentially one or two major specific courses, sometimes three. And then they'll also take, either a engineering specific course, or they'll take humanities, or they'll take free electives. So the courses will all transfer, and as a study abroad student, you do take a full credit load of courses, which coincides with your major and your program of study. Great questions. All right, maybe give it a couple more minutes for any questions that you might have. Great question. Can you use AP credits toward a minor? And the answer to that is yes. It's going to depend upon the minor and what the requirements for the minor are, but there are a number of minors that do have courses within them that are satisfied by AP credits, typically elective related classes. So for instance, if you took psychology and you do, a minor related to psychology, Psych 1200, which is an AP, will count toward that and so on. So that's a good question. Lots of study abroad questions tonight. Oh, great. What is the typical duration that a student will study abroad? So typically it's for a semester, I would say. That being said, there are shorter programs, summer programs and things like that where students take classes when they study abroad, but the typical duration is for the semester. And sometimes it'll go a bit beyond the RPI schedule, academic year. Maybe it'll go from, instead of being ending in the beginning of May, might be the mid-May or later May kind of thing, but it is typically for that semester. All right, I'll give you maybe 1 or 2 more minutes to type in any other questions you have. And again, this does not have to be your last communication. I can always answer questions via email, and that's what I'm here for. And if you're interested in PreMed, you can always come to the session tomorrow and I can answer them then too. Will this session be recorded and available? The answer to that is yes. And thank you for reminding me. I will have to press the stop record whenever we're done here, but this will be available on our YouTube page and I'll send out a link for that. Will tomorrow's session be recorded? Another great question. Yes, I will be recording each of these webinars for further purposes. And so students who weren't able to be on the line are able to access the info. All right. Okay, everyone. I'll give it about 30 more seconds. I'm not trying to kick anyone off here, obviously, but if you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me too. But this is definitely a good spot for you to ask, as people probably are also wondering the same thing. All right, everyone, let's go ahead and sign off the line here. I want to thank you all so much again for being here this very warm evening. Lisa is here in Troy, definitely. And let me bring up my, let's see, gonna pop up. And let me bring up my contact information on the screen. It's just my email, but that way you can see it. All right, so my email here is sweensv@rpi.edu. And again, email me any questions you have and we can make an appointment to talk via phone or via webinar chat just like this, kind of share screens and such. So, all right, well, take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your evening. And I look forward to working with you all.